What a year, 2020. Everything's been turned topsy-turvy. The pandemic is nothing to make light of, though. Lives have been lost, jobs have been lost, businesses have been lost, and we've recently seen an explosion of civil unrest as old wounds regarding race and race relations have bubbled to the surface due to the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis at the hands of law enforcement. We've come to realize all our lives are changing. So many people have been financially hurt. A number of our fireworks sponsors were closed for nearly 4 months. They're just not in a position to contribute to a fireworks display this year. So we've put together a 30-minute video. It's interesting, fun, and educational. So sit back and relax, and in the words of the Fighting Butlers, learn why Carlisle was a hotbed of the American Revolution. Thank you, and have a safe and happy 4th of July.
I can remember community fireworks celebrations here in Carlisle all the way back to the late 50s and early 60s. My cousins, they and their friends, they would go to the swim club with its cement bottom and sparkling clear water, diving boards and sliding boards. Me, I enjoyed the murky waters of whatever was on the bottom or floating on the top of the Conestoga Creek. But by late afternoon, we gathered for the family picnic. By evening, all activities were here at the Carlisle High School Stadium. There was a short program that would precede the fireworks. I can remember how the politicians, the gentlemen would come with their shirts and coats and ties on, all dressed up, perspiring profusely because it was always hot. The women politicians dressed to a T. There was also an opportunity where the sponsor back then, Cumberland Valley Savings and Loan Association, would present an American flag to the school district, and they would use that here on the pole at the stadium. That could be followed by usually some sort of musical entertainment, maybe perhaps the town band, a favorite drum and bugle corps might show up to participate as well. But here is what the people actually came for.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It was July 4th, the Continental Congress formally adopting the Declaration of Independence. Festivities including concerts, bonfires, parades, and the firing of cannon and muskets usually accompanied the first public readings of the Declaration of Independence, beginning immediately after its adoption. Philadelphia held the first annual commemoration of independence on July 4, 1777, while Congress was still occupied with the ongoing war.
I grew up north of here, above Blue Mountain. They sent me here to Carlisle, to Dickinson School, when I was 15 or 16. Apparently I wasn't a very good student. I did not complete the degree. I was tall and awkward, and I think that led to my lack of self-confidence. Fortunately for me, though, there was an attorney in town, Thomas Duncan, who grabbed me before I left Carlisle. That gave me an opportunity to learn from him and also read all of his law books. So in 1803, at the age of 23, I was admitted to the Cumberland County Bar Association. The political bug grabbed me. 6 years later, I was elected to the state legislature as a Democrat. And a year later, I was reelected and appointed as chairman of the prestigious Judiciary Committee. Governor Simon Snyder must have taken a liking to me, because in 1816, he appointed me as Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. Now that was a dignified and responsible position for a 36-year-old attorney. I was in close contact with wide learning and experienced veteran judges. I knew I had some deficiencies. Those first years on the bench, I really had to work hard. I became engrossed in the law. They tell me I acquired a vast and impressive knowledge of the law as the years passed, and a mastery equaled by no other. I had the honor of serving as the Supreme Court Justice of Pennsylvania for 24 years.
I came here from Ireland with my brother in 1740. We were some of the first people in the area. I had been trained as a civil engineer back in the home country, and the Penn family had invited me here to lay out the town of Carlisle. I later on became a surveyor for the newly formed Cumberland County. I also seemed to be destined to be a soldier, a leader of men. I was the first appointed colonel by the Continental Congress. I then organized what became the Rifle Brigade, and later on was promoted to brigadier general. I don't like to talk much about battles in the war, but I will tell you I led my men in the 7 Years' War to victory in the Battle of Katanning. I tell you this because after my passing in 1800, when Pennsylvania was setting up a new county with its seat at Katanning, the county itself was named after me in my honor as Armstrong County. War is a way of wearing a man down. In 1777, I asked to be relieved in my position. I was getting old, I was 66, the wounds were telling on me, and it was time to go. Later on in Carlisle, I served and was elected as the representative to the Continental Congress from 1779 to 1780. I was a strong supporter of Washington and the Army, and I'm proud to say a supporter for a new constitution as well. Later on in Carlisle, I was very keen on education. Although I did oppose Dr. Benjamin Rush's proposals for college within town, I later on changed my mind and actually, in fact, became a member of the first board of trustees for Dickinson College in 1783 and served for 11 years.
I was born in Scotland, where I studied to become a minister. Upon the death of my father in 1765, I had to leave school and move to America to teach at the College of Philadelphia. I later attended law school and became an attorney. In 1770, I moved to Carlisle and became a member of the Second Continental Congress in 1774. I served as a conservative member of Congress, and I was also director of the Bank of North America. In 1787, I played a leading role in framing the United States Constitution. I was a firm believer that political authority was in the hands of the common people rather than the government. For my hard work, President Washington appointed me to the Supreme Court in 1789. In the following years, my confidence led me to seek wealth and power. However, several unwise land speculation projects led to my financial ruin. As a result, I fled to Burlington, New Jersey to avoid prosecution for the non-payment of my debts. In spite of these unfortunate events during the final chapter of my life, I remain proud of my contributions to our country, which include the signing of the Declaration of Independence, as well as the United States Constitution.
I was born in 1754 to German immigrant parents. My father was a butcher in Philadelphia, and I lived with them until I was 24, then made my way to New Jersey, where I met a woman, and she was from Carlisle and told me that there was actually a family here, a doctor and his wife, who were looking for a young woman to come work in their home for them. So I set out to Carlisle, and I'm glad I did, because this is where I met William Hayes, and he and I were married. And in 1777, in May, he decided to enlist in the Continental Army. And as many other women did, I followed him. We did the cooking, we did the sewing, we kept up with the men, we every step that they trod, we trod right along behind them. And so in June, the end of June of 1778, it was oppressively hot when we arrived in Freehold, New Jersey, and the Battle of Monmouth starts, and men are just dropping from heat exhaustion, and I couldn't watch them suffer. So I picked up a pitcher and I went to the creek that was nearby, and I kept hoisting pitchers of water for these men. And as they would see me, they would call out, "Molly, Molly, pitcher." Molly was quite a common sort of way of getting a lady's attention. And I would go over and give them water, and they were using it to drink so that they weren't succumbing to the dehydration, and they would hoist it over their cannon barrels as they got hot. And I was really doing my part. And then I see my husband fall, and I'm already on the battlefield. I'm already in the middle of it. So I charge in and I take over his cannon position. Now, there's a story that during that battle, a cannonball came flying across the battlefield and actually came right betwixt my legs. And one of the soldiers said, "Oh my gosh, Molly, are you okay?" I, of course, responded, "Well, any higher and it would have taken a piece of me with it." You might hear that my position as Molly Pitcher is legend. However, what you can rest assured is that my legend is the one legend that any visitor to Carlisle can be a part of, because in 1832, when I passed away, I was buried in Carlisle Cemetery, and there's a large monument of me standing, holding the ramrod for the cannon. And how many legends get their own monument, really?
I had just opened a gun shop in Dublin. Decided to take the wife and my 3 sons and move to Pennsylvania. Settled in Lancaster and then decided to move to Carlisle, 1760. It's a frontier town then. Opened up a gun shop here. Eleanor birthed another daughter, 2 more sons. Had a craft. Me and my 2 boys decided to get to it, making Pennsylvania long rifles for the French and Indian War. Made a good reputation on them rifles too. Continental Congress appointed me to public armor. Had to oversee the repairs of small arms, make sure we weren't getting overcharged and under-repaired. Stayed busy in town too, in the Church of England. Decided to help build what became St. John's Episcopal Church. Needed some money, so we petitioned Congress for a grant. General Washington himself said, "The 5 butlers, a gallant band of patriot brothers." General Lafayette said, "If I needed something done right, I asked a butler to do it." They threw me and the ladies in there and called us the Fighting Butlers. Eleanor was a fighter too. There was trouble on the front and I decided to go. Neighbors thought it was a bad idea though. She told them to let me alone. Said they needed every man that could hold a musket. Said she'd be just fine and she'd come out with food for the army in a bargain. My name's Thomas Butler of the Fighting Butlers.
Sir, you asked me how I have come about to be here in this frontier town of Carlisle. Well, it's a rather complicated story. I was born in London in 1750. My father was Swiss and a merchant, while my mother was a Protestant Huguenot from France. I guess you would characterize my family as being gentry. We were fairly well off, and this allowed me to obtain a formal education. I studied in schools in London, as well as Geneva. When I reached age 20, I decided to enter the military. I left the counting house. I entered the Royal 7th Regiment of Foot. Initially, things were pretty uneventful, but when this bloody revolt broke out, my unit was sent to America. Early on in the war, it was November of 1775, our garrison was attacked by Continentals commanded by General Montgomery. Our garrison was overrun, and I was made a prisoner of war. I was marched south to the inland town of Lancaster. However, shortly thereafter, I ended up being transferred some 50 or 60 miles westward to the frontier town of Carlisle. I guess being an officer in His Majesty's Army does have some privileges. Lieutenant Despard and myself, we are not required to stay in the barracks with the general rank and file, but rather we have made arrangements for our own provisions. Staying at Stewart's Tavern, we have given our word as gentlemen and officers that we will not attempt escape. In fact, we are also permitted to leave the confines of Carlisle and travel up to 6 miles, providing we wear our British uniforms to indicate that we are prisoners of war. I will tell you, sir, that it seems that the longer this conflict drags on, the more animosity and hostility we find with the townspeople. The town is inhabited by primarily Scotch-Irish, and I would characterize them as a rather surly group. With each passing day, our situation becomes more desperate. Sir, it is Lieutenant Despard and my hope that our only chance of freedom would be prisoner exchange.